Welcome back to Into Through Aether. I'm your host, Tilp, along with Enky and Dylan. Say hello, everyone.
Hello.
Hey, guys.
And I have nothing else. I'm sorry, I've been doing too many fetch quests, and my mind is just all, oh, there's a coin. Oh, there's a coin. Look at the person. They're literally right here by your feet. You're not going to pick them up? Oh, right, it's my fault. Sorry, I had to spoop you. 3, 4, 5, here you go. Fetch quest done, bye. So, welcome back to another podcast, guys. FanFest has come gone. We got a lot of stuff to talk about. But first, we got some important announcements. Dylan, would you like to go ahead?
Yes, Into the Aether is produced by Aetherflow Media, a community-based project with a focus on a variety of topics in regard to Final Fantasy XIV and its community. Producing content such as Aetherflow Magazine, Aetherflow.com, and the podcast that you're listening to right now. If you'd like to check out the full offering of content that Aetherflow Media provides, check out www.aetherflowmedia.com. And if you like what you see and hear, consider joining our Patreon, located at patreon.com/aetherflowmedia. All funds go towards providing you with the best possible content that we can create.
Thank you, Dylan. Last time it was just Dylan and I, but this time we actually have a host that we would like you guys to actually meet. Enky, would you like to say a few words?
Hey guys, I'm Enky. I started around, patch 3.2. Was it Gears of Change? That's when I first started playing the game. And I've been stuck here ever since. My home server and my primary server is Balmonk. Yes, everybody can roll their eyes now. It's fine. It's not as bad as everybody thinks it is. And I spend my time being a role player and basically engaging in the usual, casual PvE. Sometimes PvP, occasionally, when the right mode is up. Okay, we're going to get into a little bit of news here. So patch 4.56 is coming out on Tuesday, March 26th. And this is going to conclude the Stormblood story arc and provide us with hopefully a fitting lead-in to Shadowbringers. We're going to be learning why exactly we're going to the first shard, Norvrant. It's going to be pretty exciting. What we're going to be given is the final questline for Stormblood and the closing out quest for Hildebrand for Stormblood. I'm very excited about those. Love me some Hildebrand. And of course we're going to have the big Beastman collab to close out their storylines too for Stormblood. So that's going to be great for crafters and people who like their Beast Tribe quests alike. Then on, what do we got? April 16th to May 27th, we've got a Nocturne for Heroes, which is the Final Fantasy XIV and 15 crossover event. Now that starts off, if you want to park your characters there preemptively, that starts off in Uldar, Steps Annulled, and it starts with the quest, The Man in Black. Now, those of you that were watching FanFest know that those event items they're pretty banging. It includes the Regalia 4-person mount, so that's going to be great for FCs. Or if you just want to take your friends and, get in the car, we're going shopping. The Noctus Outfit, and Noctis's hairstyle from 15. So some new glamour options there.
Woo!
For all of the people who really need that K-pop band boy chic.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah, everybody's going to do the band boy crap.
Especially with the new dances.
Oh,
yeah,
God,
we are all ready for band boy mania.
And not to mention, the fact that it's a 4-person mount. Somebody's going to be taxing people around.
Lots of people are going to be playing taxi.
Hey, who needs a ride to the Aether Current? No? Okay.
Draft Chocobos are out. The Regalia is in.
Yep.
Calling it
everybody
now.
is going to come back and just get that because, it's a 4-person mount. It's the first 4-person mount.
Yeah. Yeah, no, one day we will maybe actually have a legitimate Choco bus.
You mean like, I don't know what game it was, but they have a whale mount for guilds. So it's a 60-person mount. That's insane.
Well, we already have the whales.
We do, and it's not a multi-person mount, I don't
Nope,
think.
it's only a 2-person.
It is.
It's a deuces.
But it has a nice little table for snacks and tea.
That's the one thing I found weird is that, with the Fat Mogul, you got a nice little wooden swing chair. This one, you get tea with your Whale Sea Adventure.
I really don't mind the tea, to be honest. Thought the tea was a nice touch. Pretty fond myself.
I haven't gotten myself, but I know quite a few people that have.
No, I don't have it.
I've had one of my characters ride around on one. Actually through Pagos, had a friend who, for the first few levels, carted me around on the whale mount. So it was nice. It was very calming, where you're just like floating along, going to the next location. So yeah, I recommend it. 2 thumbs up.
Nice. So, with all that said and done, guys, we do have quite a bit to talk about for FanFest. Not too much on the developer panel that was on Saturday/Sunday if you're in those areas. But there is quite a bit to digest here, so this is going to be your first and only final warning. We are going to spoiler contents. I will be linking a bunch of the videos from not the teaser site, but the actual YouTube Final Fantasy page. Most of it you can find there, including walkthroughs of areas, new race, which, again, spoilers, and the new job. Sorry, I can't say jobs anymore. But yeah, this is your first and final warning, or this is your last final warning. We're going in, so please enjoy the episode. And where shall we start?
I think first of all we're gonna have to start with that trailer.
Okay, so it was mentioned. I think we actually talked about that in the last podcast that they had hinted that the first 2 trailers are just teasers, and that the actual trailer will be nothing like it. I mean, video-wise, it was still kind of the same. We got more information, but at the same time, the feel of the trailer is nothing like the other trailers.
Yeah, they said they released, the first trailer we saw at the Vegas Fan Fest, they said, I think, if I remember correctly, that it was being released in separate pieces, and then all of those pieces would come together. So now we've got the complete puzzle. I
do apologize, my dogs are barking right now. I'm trying
to talk about the trailer, too.
Yeah, they're just that excited. So, I'm trying to get up here to the thing. There's just so much information I posted, I can't even get to the top of it.
I think one of my favorite things about the new trailer was getting actually the full song. We kind of had bits and pieces of the song even in the previous trailers where it had that kind of Western theme to it. But then we got the lyrics, the full audio, and I really liked the kind of, the fact that actually, first of all, the singer is a male. I thought that was kind of cool.
Funny tidbit about that. Everybody, I do again apologize for the dogs. Again, and it was hinted towards the talk during the keynotes that all the, like you said, have been female. This one is male. What if, and this was Koji and them talking, the Heidelin was singing the first 3, while this one is actually sung by Zodiac? ?
Ooh, spooky.
Ooh. That's interesting. It's a very interesting theory.
Yep. Because, Susan Calloway, lovely lady, usually she sings the main theme, and it's kind of a surprise that she didn't do it this time around.
Yeah, and I have to say I kind of missed the fact that it wasn't Susan, because Final Fantasy fans really love her, but it was a nice change, and especially with the previous songs being kind of very operatic, this one was definitely a lot more rock and roll. And now now that you mentioned as far as it being a male voice and being possibly Zodiac, now I can only think of Koji Fox's Zodiac. Since he's one of the lead singers of the Primals. But no, I think that definitely is a really interesting comparison and contrast. So we have the female, the mother kind of role being the female voice of Heidelin, and then the father being Zodiac.
Yeah, we have Void Dad and Crystal Mom, and we're caught in the middle of a real messy divorce.
Oh God.
We got to side with Dad for a bit, guys.
Oh no. Yeah, speaking of siding with Dad, most of the stuff that we've seen, other than the town that Y'shtola and Urianger are in, is on fire. think that's still in our realm, while everything else in the trailer is in the first. We're actually going to the first on this, guys.
I think even the flaming bits may be the first. I mean, that's not the Y'shtola I know, and, well, I can't say I'm super fond of Y'shtola, but, you know, that's not the Y'shtola I'm used to.
Right.
Like, things being on fire, being burned by the light, I think that might be the first too, but I'm excited about going to the first.
Yeah. And again, jumping back to the first teaser trailer from Vegas, we got a little bit of Thancred with this little girl, and, you know, the big line comes down. What we didn't know was that was actually a slums from a place that is basically where the rich, kind of like a fancy Ul'dah, full of fat cats. Like the Makotes are plump. And not the good plump either.
A real decadent den of the bourgeoisie, you know?
Like, not the good plump. We're talking like, oh god, what was that one foreign ruler where he basically had people feed him food all the time, and he was just, yeah, one of those types of royal people. You okay?
No, yeah, I'm fine. I was just thinking, his name began with a C. Roman Emperor.
Thaddeus?
No, began with C.
Too chubby.
I'd have to look it up. But yeah, no, I think it was like one of the precursors to Nero. I know exactly who you're talking about. So,
yeah,
it'll come to me.
Like, there's that, the Y'shtola Urianger part of the trailer. We did get a little bit more to see in that spot, but at the same time, it still felt a little short. But they split it into two, and I think that's why it felt short to me. Because, you know, we got Urianger walking up, calling her Master Matoya, and then, you know, she says her thing, and then the tree falls down, and her hood goes up. In this trailer, you know, you get a little bit more of the action of why, or not why the town's on fire, but everything is still ablaze and whatnot. Urianger does his line, she says the thing, and it cuts back to the Warrior of Light fighting the angelic being. And then after a little bit, it cuts back to the tree falling, and then she finishes her line, which it just having it separate felt like it was too short.
My theory about that is, I think actually, I agree with you. I think that they actually are still on the source, on the primary shard. I have a feeling that that was maybe a scene from right after the calamity caused by Bahamut. So, like, maybe there's some timey-wimey shenanigans kind of going on there. Okay. Where you have a version of Matoya / Y'shtola, or, yeah, I call her M'shtola.
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 M'shtola,
yeah. And Urianger, yeah, like, they're in the shroud as, you know, Dalamud and Bahamut's raining down all of that fire. You know, because don't forget that we lost a huge part of the shroud from that calamity.
Right.
That was part of the whole, you know, change from 1.0 to 2.0. And the fact that, like, I think they said like 70% of the shroud, maybe a little bit more, a little bit less, was destroyed by that calamity. So it would be really interesting if that is what it is, and they are there in the shroud trying to prevent the rest of the shroud, the entirety of the shroud, from dying off.
Oh.
Because one thing I've always actually found that was really compelling is that the shroud itself is kind of a living thing. It is a mysterious entity almost in and of itself, and we've never actually learned what that is.
Yeah, that is true.
Yeah, you get some gubbins about the elementals, and they want this and they want that, and it's like, okay, but what do you mean really?
Yeah. So, and it would be interesting if M'shtola and Urianger are protecting that. You know, it's kind of like, you know, where he says, like, you know, we can, I think, defy our fate, but we cannot deny it.
Right.
I'm curious about that class switch, though. That looks like Black Mage Y'shtola and Astrologian Urianger, and I'm just like, hang on a minute, aren't you an Arcanist and a Conjurer or a White Mage, whatever Y'shtola happens to be?
I think she is a Conjurer. But at the same time, she also had Astrologian Shield before that came out, which we found. We did proof check on that compared to last time when we asked, and then, you know, kind of waited during the podcast. We did get confirmation. Yeah, she did have the shield in 1.0. Who knows?
Yeah, Kane Senna has that ability too, so I'm assuming it's just something that they sub in 4 healer NPCs to be like a big whole, yeah, please come and stand under this thing, don't stand outside of it, or otherwise you might very well die.
True. And then I jumped to Thancred, and then we jumped back to Y'shtola and them. Going back to Thancred and them, fight still played out the same, but, we had the fat cats. And then when it cut to Minfilia, we got a glow, and then we actually got moved into the new area. A hint of what looked to be the Crystal Tower, which currently we're going to be calling it the Crystal Tower because we're not quite sure if it is. In the source, sorry, this is going to get confusing really fast. In the source, our homelands, Crystal Tower came up after Bahamut did his thing. And, blah, blah, blah,
yeah,
Aether.
he unearthed it.
And it comes up. There, it's there. We don't know what's going on with it. And there's actually a city built around it.
Yep, the Crystarium.
The Crystarium.
If it's a divergent timeline, like, anything could have happened there.
That's true. And then it kind of makes me wonder, which I'm going to have to talk to our lore team on this, because our original Rapture 2005 tech demo trailer for Final Fantasy, not even Final Fantasy at the time, because they just called it Rapture, the new MMO
Project
experience.
Rapture.
Yeah, that was for E3.
We had I'm sorry, I forgot the name of it. The Crystarium? Crystarium. We had that there, and there was no Crystal Tower and all that. And I'm wondering, because you cut to the 1.0 trailer, they're inside of it. It's a little darker, but you can still see quite a bit of all the notes from inside, from when they were inside, and the palm trees. I'm wondering if we actually had that at one point in time, but then all the events pre 1.0 took away that place for us. Like if it was an actual place that was built, but then, Bahamut happened and then the place got demolished, or the Battle of Silvertear. I'm kind of curious where that place is in our timeline.
As far as it actually being in 1.0, it was never in 1.0. We never saw, I having been a 1.0 player myself, we never saw those assets.
I meant in the trailer.
Yeah. Oh, okay. As far as like the opening cutscenes for 1.0. Yeah. And that's something that actually a friend linked to me, and we kind of examined it and rewatched it a couple of different times. Is when you have either, we're not sure if it's the Warrior of Darkness or if it's Adver, or what's his name again? Albert. Arbert. Yeah. Where he's sitting there and he's speaking to two of his companions, and Elizin and Makote, as far as trying to pick out what leaf plate that they want to do. And I know he looks at one, and here he is, he's kind of sitting in this tavern that looks like it could be in the Crystarium, but he looks at this leaf plate, and all of a sudden he's transported to this other place, which is, definitely looks like Eorzea, where they're fighting this Malboro, and they defeat it, and then all of a sudden, there's a flying contraption of the Garlean make that comes in and crashes into him, and the next thing that he wakes up in this flying machine, and he's watching the attack. I think the battle at Silvertear Lake.
The battle for Silvertear Skies.
Yeah, you even see I think Midgar Samora in the background.
Dragon Dad. Yep.
Go Dragon Dad, go. So that's interesting. Yeah, and then after that, he has this vision. He's transported back then to this tavern. And the friend that I was speaking to is like, they really feel that particular opening cutscene from 1.0 is going to be very relevant to the story. And, the leading belief is that, yes, the tavern that he's sitting in is in the Crystarium. Okay. So it's could be the Warrior of Darkness there.
Yeah.
It looks real similar. Like if you look at the videos from FanFest showcasing the Crystarium, and then you go back to those 1.0 cutscenes and you take a look at the surroundings, it's like this could be the same place, and probably is. That's what my gut is telling me. It's the same place. It is the Crystarium.
Yeah, and the fact that they're using Project Rapture assets is really exciting, because I know when that tech demo came out, people were blown away. At the time that came out, nobody was making graphics like that.
Nope.
Nobody was doing that level of intricacy, especially with the glass dome structures. That was pretty difficult to imagine anybody being able to make that. So when 1.0 came around and we didn't see that, I know that people even mentioned, like, oh, well, we don't see any of the areas that they had in the tech demo. That's, a little disappointing. But we're finally getting to see this. They're coming in-game, and that's great.
I'm wondering if a lot of 1.0 people are actually going to finally come back and try it. Because, I know that intro video got a lot of people sold on the game, but they never got to see it. And after all the bugs and the failures, they kind of left, and they didn't even bat an eye at 2.0. So I'm kind of curious to see how many people actually come back to actually look at it that have not even played any of the 2.0 series.
Yeah, that might bring the magic back for some people. That, like, little hints of nostalgia here and there, like, oh, it's the place from the tech demo, we finally get to go there. Like, we actually get to, explore the environment. The environment that sold so many people on the game.
Yep. And then, continuing on after we go through a little bit of that area, we go outside and we actually get presented with our first enjoyment of a new class. Everybody loves dancers, and we got a Vera dancer in the Crystarium city.
We got us a ranged DPS.
Yeah. Yep. I was actually one of the people who, when I saw that, and I was like, it's a DPS. It's a DPS. Yes, it's a DPS.
Yep, DPS with throwing, not chakras, throwing weapons. They made it a point to say it's throwing weapons, because if they went with chakras, they'd be limited with what weapons they could do, and they wanted to make sure that they can incorporate a bunch. So
yeah, but those chakras were really pretty looking, and I can already see in my head. I'm like, yep. All my weapons are gonna be glamored into chakras.
If I had to guess, our starting weapons are probably gonna be just like throwing knives, but then we kind of go up to the chakras. Those that we've seen in the trailer are more than likely going to be the artifact Force Shadowbringer dancer.
Yeah, I reckon so. If you look at the slide that they show afterwards, it shows I think it's a Zayla male in the same outfit. He has the chakrams too, so it's quite possible it's an AF.
Nice. And then go a little further into the trailer. We cut back to the Warrior of Light fighting the angelic guy. And we cut back again, and we actually get to see the figure of the voice that we've been hearing throughout the whole teasers. And it's still a masked person. We don't know who he is. But his right hand is actually made of crystal. So I'm kind of curious what is going on with that.
That hood looked pretty Asian to me, but there was no mask. So not that I could see anyway. So I'm leaning Asian, but at the same time, I'm just like, oh, this could go either way.
Yep. And Croatoan and our lore team is actually doing a piece on the Crystal Tower lore. And I'm actually going to ask him about, because if I remember right, oh god, I forgot his name. Oh god.
Rahatia.
No, is it Neil? Nail?
Or
No,
Nail
god,
Vandanis?
no, I don't know. Nero, I think it's Nero. He got turned to crystal, if I remember right.
Huh.
So it kind of makes me wonder if, what happened to Nero might have transpired to this character here, but only part of him got transformed, as opposed to Nero, where he got completely transformed for a brief period.
What if it actually was Nero, though? Because that was kind of one thing that was really weird at the beginning of Stormblood, where Nero just pops back, like, hey guys, what's up?
Hey, your favorite axe-wielding magical girl is here.
Hammer-wielding magical girl. Can we
here.
actually get a video of him transforming into the armor, magical girl style?
I think we can. Yeah.
Yeah, he deserves it.
He deserves it. He's extra enough.
He's been around long enough. That is a possibility, because we didn't get any view of the guy's face other than from the tip of the nose or bridge of the nose all the way down to the chin. That's all we've ever gotten.
I know there was some theory that it might be Grahatia, who was the character from the Crystal Tower raid who ultimately stayed in the Crystal Tower.
Mm-hmm.
But actually, somebody did point out to me that they don't think that it is Grauhatia, just because if you look at the figure with the hood, there's no Makote used there.
Yeah.
So that'd be kind of weird.
It would be kind of weird, but, you know, at the same time, it doesn't mean that it couldn't be Allegan descendant on that side.
True.
And if you look at the voice actor for the voice that you hear in the cutscenes, you know, in the most recent patches, you know, the guy who's coming to take you away, hee hee ha ha. And if you look at the voice in the trailer, I think that's Arbert's voice. It's the same voice actor for Arbert, so maybe it's a different character and they're just reusing the voice actor, but I'm strongly leaning towards Arbert, and something's happened.
That would be
to
really
him.
interesting. And that would also kind of beg the question, like, what happened to his teammates?
It would.
Yeah. I hope it's not sad.
I'm really hoping it's not sad, because if I remember right, lore-wise, the Lalafell is technically his lover, or love interest. In the lore book, at least. And that was in the first lore book.
That's kind of sweet and sad.
Yeah.
I mean, she was
Yeah, Square Enix,
No
no sad, please.
We already dealt with
sad.
enough sadness. But that to finish off the actual trailer there as well. So, you know, we get the actual killing of the angelic figure instead of, you know, oh, my arm's been chopped off, and we cut to the now Warrior of Darkness instead of Warrior of Light. That angelic figure gets completely obliterated with this, what would seem to be a Dark Knight limit break with all the black fire or purple fire and whatnot. It was enough force to split the clouds of the heavens to give you the nice Milky Way with the crystal tower in the background, which that's also new in this trailer. And, you know, cuts to the figure of him putting over his shoulder, zooming into his blue eye and be like, Daddy's here.
Yep.
Getting all the edge.
Getting all that edge
Well,
in
that's
there.
definitely Arbert who is fighting the Kirabu. Because it makes sense. It now really puts into context what the gremlin was saying to him as far as, like, you know, no more fights left to fight. What are you going to do now?
Yep.
And if you think about as far as, like, what happened to that particular shard, that makes sense. Like, okay, congratulations, you won today. And now you still lose your world.
Yeah.
What are you going to do?
Because he says in the storyline, my world is succumbing to light. Please help me. We did everything right, but we shouldn't have done that. Help, please.
And that's why they were dark in our world. And now I think he wants us to return the favor.
He could be calling us back to return the favor. Yeah, like, you know, we kind of did you a solid warning you about this, so could you maybe just come and pay it forward and maybe fix the fact that we screwed up a little bit?
Because if I remember right, in the keynotes, they mentioned that there's only 2 city-states left. One that looks pretty much like a Party Limsa, and then the Crystarium. Party Limsa is basically...
Party Limsa.
Yeah.
Yep, that's what AFM team called it during the voice chat when it came up, and they saw all the luxury and stuff, and then, you know, cuts down to the slums, and you see the boat and wreckage and all that. And it's like, oh, yeah, that's definitely Limsa, but it got turned into Ul'dah, and now everybody at Party Limsa is basically partying because it's the end of the world as they know it.
Ul'dah and Limsa had a baby, and it's
and then
ugly.
the people at the Crystarium, as you can see, are more leaner, fitter.
Except for the cats.
No, that the cats are thin still in the Crystarium. Over at Party Limsa, they are fat. But there is one thing, if you actually pay very close attention, there is no Lalafell at the Crystarium.
Nope.
Yeah, because they're dwarves, aren't they? They're a beast tribe.
They are a beast tribe that we actually get to help with.
We're not allowed to go in their houses, though. Not if you're a medium race.
Yeah, that's the other thing. If you want to see what's inside the houses, you have to go be a Lalafell. And it's like, oh, okay.
I think you're going to have a lot of
this is
people who are going to,
different.
like, make a Lalafell just to be able to check out the inside. Just for giggles. Yeah, because I'm going to be like,
oh, God, yeah.
I wonder what's in that room over there.
I want to see what's inside. But, like, the way they tease it is like, oh, by the way, here's the new beast tribe.
It's dwarves.
Let's see what's behind the helmet. Yep, that's right. They're Lalafells. And then they actually gave us names for all the races in there. And I'm skipping over all the walkthrough videos now. But yeah, like they're called dwarves. And I'm scrolling as fast as I can here, I swear, guys. Then they cut to a bunch of other information, which we'll go back to. And then here's the dwarves. They're never without their helms. They're never without their beards. experts in mining and metal, Gary. Kind of makes me wonder if they're also a part of like because we had Gygases, because Lalafell had Ul'dah, and they basically forced all these guys into, or Gygases into mining for them. What if that got what if that got switched around here for one?
I think that could be part of it. I did like the kind of the flip-flop with some things, like also like kind of going back to the fat cats for a minute there. If you think about Ul'dah as it is in the source, the Makote are kind of somewhat second-class citizens in Ul'dah.
Yeah, highly sexualized. Most of the time you'll see them as dancers out in the street, and people are leering at them.
And
you know.
I mean,
yeah. I mean, like, you got the 3 Makotes that are dancing right there by the by the pub.
Yep, you've got one down in Vesper
yeah,
Bay
so I mean,
as well.
it's quite obvious that the people who are in charge are Lalafell and even yours to some extent. So it's kind of interesting. Like, as soon as I saw, like, the fat Makote and then, you know, Lalafell are dwarves, I'm like, huh. So this is kind of what happens when things get flipped around. And I think one thing I was really curious about as far as how that works in regards to the entire world is, even though each one of the shards is not supposed to be exactly like the source, they're still reflections. Reflections can sometimes be, they're backwards. And that's one thing that, you know, if you've ever read Alice in Wonderland, it's a world that is built somewhat off of the rules that of our world, but sometimes things are inverse. So you kind of have an inverse relationship with the Makote and the Lalafell, as far as how they appear in this new shard. So that's kind of interesting, I think.
Very interesting. So I got the list here, and all the names have actually been changed. Names on the source here: Makote, Alazin, Rogadin, Alra, and Lalafell. As opposed to the names in the first, which is Humes for here, Mistel.
Yeah, Mistel.
Mistel. Elves. We got elves now.
Elves now.
For Alazin. Rogadin are called Gadgins. I almost wanted to say giants at first, but it's Gulgents. And then Daran. Am I saying that one right? For Alra?
Drawn, I think it is.
Yeah, so it's more dragon sounding.
And then oh, that does make sense. And then Lalafell are dwarves. I do have the names for the other ones, but that they didn't like give that till after they announced the new race. So for Vera, they are called Vis. Just Viis. I'm pretty sure I got that right. And then for the Hogarth, which is the new race, they are called Ronso. For those that like Final Fantasy X.
Definitely.
That's what they were originally called anyway.
Well, and as far as heroes and them being called Hume, that is from Final Fantasy 11.
Yes, a nice callback to 11 there.
I'm like really interested to see what the heroes are going to be like in the first. Because, you know, Humes back in 11 were actually very into mining and into metallurgy, which has incidentally been taken over by the dwarves.
Yeah. And then, you know, I'm kind of curious to actually see how a lot of changes have changed between the first and the source. Again, this is going to get very confusing later down the road, guys. But yeah, kind of jumping over to the new races as we're kind of slowly slid into that there. This is where all the pitchforks and knives and stuff are going to come out, because a lot of people are not happy about this.
Yeah, there's been some real community backlash.
And we're going to try to stay neutral with this as best as we can, because it's one of those things where they've done it before with Final Fantasy XI. They did it with 1.0 launch, and they're still trying, and I'm sure they have their reasons, but, you know, community's kind of up in arms right now with this. Hogarth are male-only Ronsos. But at the same time, Vera are female-only bunny girls. I know a lot of people would like the kind of girlish figure bunnies for males, not like girlish figures, but kind of leaner, not as much muscle tone and stuff, more agile. And, you know, there's quite a few people that would love the Lady Rogue. God, I called it Rogadin again.
The Hrothgar.
Hrothgar. But at the same time, they actually mentioned that there's going to be a lot of customization for these two races. And if you think about it, we still have quite a bit of information to go from now till actual launch. There's a possibility that could be implemented, could not. They haven't gone into how much detail is in the customization. I'm sure we're going to be seeing that here with the benchmark in, I want to say May or June is when the benchmark is going to come out for this.
I think it was mid-May, the benchmark.
Yep. I think you're right, actually. And then, we'll actually get to see how customizable all this is going to be. And, a lot of people aren't taking into consideration that, if they're trying to make it really customizable, like they are trying to portray it as, that's a lot of work for a development team to do both races and then both sexes.
Especially if they're doing two tribes, which I believe was mentioned.
Yep. Actually, you could see it on the... I'm always going to pronounce this wrong. I'm sorry, guys. Please forgive me. I'm just going to call it Ronzo from now on. You've kind of got a couple skin colors, but you can also kind of notice a little bit more. You've got more of a cat-like feature for one side, and then kind of more of a dog-ish look towards the other side. I know people are going to say I'm wrong, but that's kind of how I saw it. Was kind of got more different looks to the two, because the first reveal of it, you got a lion, and then you got one that kind of looks more like Kimari from Final Fantasy X.
Yeah.
And then, it still has the cat look features, but they're not as predominant as, say, the lion or the cheetah looking one. I'm pretty sure there was a cheetah looking one.
Yeah, there was.
But the skin tones also were slightly different. You got more of warm tones for one side, and then kind of more of a darker tones for the other side. Kind of like how we have the dusk and the light. I know I got those two wrong for the L's, and I'm just gonna go sit in the corner.
The wildwoods, the wildwoods, and the dusk whites.
Yep. So
it's the same with the Rogadin too.
Yep. So, and I'm kind of curious if the Vera are the same. I didn't really see too much difference for Vera in any of the videos that I've seen.
I think they were primarily showing one tribe so far.
Yeah, that would make sense.
I have, call me an optimist. I think it would be really interesting if, where we don't have both sexes at the start, if that is something that is introduced over time. If they actually... There's story development behind it, rather than, bam, they're here. I think that could be really interesting.
Kind of like what they're doing to Ishgard Reconstruction. Yeah, that would actually make sense.
It shows growth and development in the world, and that's something that I know that, a fair amount of players have been clamoring for, for a long time, is to have that evolution of the game world. And actually even having that evolution of the game world through playable races could be really interesting and compelling.
That would actually be kind of a strategic move on their part.
Yep.
Especially for progression, we had Mordona from 2.0 all the way to 2.5, seeing the evolution of change from it being just like a little campsite to the fortress that it is now. Same with Idyllshire for the cleaning of that. I didn't see too much of that in the Stormblood other than the Dolmen Reconstruction Enclave.
Yeah, we had the Enclave Reconstruction, but I don't think we've seen any... They're not rebuilding the castle just yet. We haven't seen the area outside the castle being rebuilt, So
it would be a kind of a smart move on them to actually do it in a playable race, as you were saying. Showing that growth in a different way than how most people are kind of accustomed to seeing the growth. That's why we got the Enclave, where you had to do the turn-ins for it to actually grow. That would actually make sense.
If these races are tied to the first, which they might not be in some cases, it could be that there is only so much growth that the first can actually do structurally. But as far as its people goes, maybe that's what they intend.
That is very that is actually kind of a, yeah. I don't know what to say. I'm baffled now. I don't know what to say, guys.
I mean, the thing is that the one great thing about every new expansion is it's an exciting ride as far as to see how everything fits. What do we get? How does it all roll out? So before, I know at least for myself, before lamenting as far as what we didn't get, I want to see how what we are getting, how that actually fits into the bigger picture. And just have an open mind as far as, you know, benefit of the doubt, as far as how they're going to make it work. Generally, you know, I think actually Square Enix always does a really good job of whatever they give us, making the most out of it. And even then, at the end of the day, if there's something that we really want as a community, the devs have always, you know, their track record time and again has been to usually give the players what we want.
Diadem is a good example, even though it failed twice.
The flaming turtle from the Golden Saucer.
Yep, flaming
that
turtle.
being able to fly.
Oh, go ahead. You kind of cut out there.
Oh, the flaming turtle being able to fly. People were bugging them about that for a while.
Yep. I think there's only like two mounts now that don't fly. Like all the ponies fly now. And I think they're actually Beast Tribe mounts. I want to say the Not Spriggan, wow. The Sargon mount.
Oh, the Sargon, yeah.
Fish thing. Because, you know, you can't ride it in the water, but... Because, you know, that's technically flying, guys. But, yeah, I think it's just a couple Beast Tribe that are left that don't fly.
And those might be updated at any point, we just don't know.
Mm-hmm. That is very true.
At the end of the day, I mean, I have to give SE at least some props to the fact that they take risks. I mean, like you mentioning Diadem. They took risks, and they've learned from it. And that has continued to help produce, like, new and exciting content, so.
Like Eureka! Even though a lot of people are still pissed about the grind, it's still something that was an experiment that they tried, because we got elemental levels, which has never been heard of in this game at that point.
I have to admit, that...
It was a brand new system rolled out for that.
Yeah. I have to admit that was something from Final Fantasy XI that I did miss, was the elements being a lot more relevant than they are now.
Yeah, because they removed all the alignments from our character profiles, didn't they? Those don't really do anything for us anymore. Yep,
they don't do anything. I mean, you could still get the rings in early stages that kind of change your element, but, you know, it's not going to do anything significant, at least.
No, it doesn't tilt your stats in the same way it used to.
So I think we've actually gone over pretty much almost everything that was in the trailer, didn't we?
Oh yeah, that was the end of the trailer. We kind of slowly went into the some of the keynotes there.
And just to review the two new cities that you were mentioning before, one of them is called the Crystarium, and the party Limsa is Yoma, or Yomoa. That is party Limsa. And the Shard, the first, is also known as, I'm going to probably not pronounce this correctly, Norvrant? Is that Norvrant?
Yep,
okay.
Norvrant, yeah.
Okay. So
it's kind of weird that they got a different name for the Shard, the first Shard.
It's very Nordic sounding.
It is.
So, which actually I thought that was kind of funny considering the Hrothgar is from the source, and that is definitely Nordic. But yet, the first is Norvrant, which is a Nordic sounding name.
Yeah, if you look at some of the buildings in the Lakeland area that they teased, that's very old Europe. Like, a lot of intermingling there of old European housing styles and construction.
Yeah. I would like to say that the area that sounds the Crystarium looks a lot like Mordona and Korthus before it became a snowburden trapland.
So it's like Mordona before...
Yep, Mordona and Korthus in the 1.0 series, but with purple instead of green. Because that's another thing, like, half the zones that they showed in this keynote looks more photogenic than, like, the fairy world that we seen back in European Fanfest. But then we also found out during the development panel that nothing is quite final until, like, week before, if that.
Wow. Yeah, It's not over until the fat lady sings. It's not over until they give the final okay and the final checks.
Or in this case, the fat Makote sings.
Yes, the fat Makote.
The fat Makote sings. So I'm kind of curious to see how that pixie area actually changes from European to actual release. So I'm sure this is going to be a really photogenic expansion.
It's very pastel right now.
Yep.
Which actually makes sense considering the fact that, one thing they mentioned, actually, I can't remember if it was during the keynote, that it is a land of never-ending daylight. There is no night.
Yes. No night. That is kind of an interesting thing. I completely forgot about that.
Yeah, so the fact that all the colors are very candy-colored pastels kind of makes sense. And even with the trees being, somewhat purplish, again, it's that whole photo-negative kind of impression that, I'm getting.
So also on the first star, does this mean we can basically wear our sunglasses at night because there is none?
Yes.
Is this the one world where it's going to be okay?
This will be the one world that is okay to wear your sunglasses at night. My goodness. It's like Alaska all over again. We did get a little bit more insight on, say, the angelic figure and kind of the burden of the lands.
Ooh, the Sin Eaters, yeah.
Yes, the Sin Eaters and then the Innocents. It's kind of a little bit to take with. I didn't actually get to hear all the commentary about that because everybody started not on the stream, but in the voice chat, everybody started freaking out because they saw the one that looked like a mixture between Shinryu and Byaku with the giant tongue, and it's like, oh my god, they messed him up. He's on steroids. And it's like, guys, I'm trying to listen here. It's ugly Byaku.
Well, and the thing that was interesting about that is both of the Sin Eater models that they showed seemed very reminiscent of certain depictions that I've seen of ancient kami in Japanese history, especially the one with the really long neck. So
yeah, I was gonna say that kind of just looked like a deformed Garuda.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's kind of really interesting in the fact that as far as in Japanese culture with the kami, a lot of them were really neither good nor bad. So you have now the Void Set on one side, they're more darkness, and then you have the creatures of the light, the Sin Eaters. And yeah, so it's kind of interesting the fact that they're really trying to stress that even though these are of the light, these are still very deadly creatures. They're not necessarily the good guys.
Yeah, too much light is bad, too much dark is bad. You have to maintain that delicate balance, or you're going to end up in some real trouble and with some really nasty critters on your hands.
Very much so. The last thing is, I don't think our... how do I put this? We had Bahamut, we had Alexander, and we had Omega. All of those have been on the source. I think our actual... and this is just my prediction for this. I think our next one, which is Eden, is kind of going to be on the source, not in Eorzea. We got a small teaser with it, and all the teaser was this barren land, this one little sprout, like a scene from WALL-E, and basically kind of the light source clouds that we've been seeing in most of the trailer.
Yeah, I got some Sephiroth flashbacks, and I was like, please God, no more murderous trees. I beg of you, SE.
Right? And it's Eden is technically the name of it. So ES1, or E1S, ES2, blah, blah, blah. I'm pretty sure that's what it's going to be. Only time I ever remember Eden was in Final Fantasy VIII as a summon, and it was kind of different. I don't actually remember all of it. It's been almost 15 years since I played it.
Yeah, if I recall correctly, Eden was an optional Guardian Force that you could get. And yeah, I mean, you didn't really know exactly what Eden was. Because, and I'm looking at a picture of Eden now, and it looks a little bit like a flying saucer.
Right?
So it's it's not really a creature, but it's just this thing. And I remember also, I don't think Eden had actually any elemental affinity, unlike some of the other Guardian forces or summons where, you had Ifrit that's obviously fire, what have you. So it would be interesting. And the other thing that's also kind of interesting as far as its relevance to 14 is that Eden, you obtained in one of the gardens. So you have, of course, that whole kind of pun of Garden of Eden.
And then, I guess we also have another guest artist this time, I think it was, from the Kingdom Hearts team. Actually drew one of the characters, and they posted that just seconds after. That's part of the storyline of Eden. And, kind of looks a little Lolita Gothica type clothing. Dark hair, purple, bluish. I know I'm going to botch this name, too, because I'm horrible at English.
Gaia.
Gaia?
Yeah, it's Gaia.
Gaia.
The one thing that kind of struck out the most to a lot of people when I was listening to this was the hammer. We don't have any class that contains a hammer, but then at the same time, some of the jobs that are in the first, as opposed to the source, like for instance, our archers become bards. In the first, the archers actually become rangers.
Oh.
So, there may be a chance that we might get a healer still.
Well,
there
and
might
especially
not.
with the hammer. Okay, so go with me here on a little tinfoil hat journey. Gaia is, I believe, the ancient titan in Grecian lore, or Grecian mythology, is the name of Earth, Mother Earth. So one thing that people have always kind of wondered about, are we going to actually get geomancers? And if you think about it, having a character named Gaia who's carrying around a big giant hammer, if we're going to see a geomancer, that's where it's going to come from.
Right. Not to mention, I was going to say most of the Nordic stuff, clerics could be wielding hammers in the first as opposed to staves. There may be a weapon change for healers in the near future for White Mage at least. Who knows?
It's definitely possible.
I'm kind of curious. Yep, I'm kind of curious to see how they actually play this. I'm hoping it's more of there's another healer class, but at the same time, it's going to be kind of weird to see them try to balance the 4 classes out. Because I think the current meta is that you'll always have a scholar in your party. It's just whether or not you have an astrologian or a white mage.
Yeah, pretty much. And people have been clamoring for a new healer. I mean, it has been 6 years since we got the last one, I believe.
Yep, right there at Heavensward. Well, it's not 6 years. It would be going on to 4 years.
Yeah, 4 years. So it's a long time since we got a healer, and we've got tanks, we've got DPS. People are clamoring for one. So if they give us Geomancer, fair enough. Or it could be she has a hammer because she's our next Nero. She's going to be our next magical girl. Magical girl plus. Maybe she's not going to be as extra as Nero. I don't know.
I don't know. I think the fans want Nero magical girl outfit now.
I think the fans want more Nero in general. He's pretty well loved.
Oh god, yeah. He's that sassy person that everybody loves but hates at the same time.
Oh, that is so true.
I can't help but think though of Gaia and Nero having a "my hammer is better than your hammer."
Oh, my hammer's bigger
than yours.
And then she walks up and is like, "That's not a hammer. This is a hammer."
Just lets go of it and just crunches into the ground. That's a hammer.
I mean, could be we get a new class of some kind. I mean, a healer hammer class. I'm not sure how that would work. I don't think it's Geomancer, just based on what we've seen in the Astrologian quest so far. I mean, they're all, like, the Onmyoji that are kind of associated with Geomancy are very different. Maybe she's something new. Maybe Nero will be the class teacher for all that new good stuff. 'Cause he's fairly vested in the plot now. It's obvious they're not going to kill him off. They've tried.
Oh, yeah.
They've tried. But he's not quite dead yet.
And I'm kind of curious, because we've had Nero in just the regular main story. Then we've had him in the Crystal Tower series, and then all of a sudden he comes into the Omega series, which, interdimensional rifts, blah, blah, blah. It would be nice to see him actually be linked into the main story quest again. even if it is just going into just the Eden raid stuff, it would be nice to see them kind of incorporate, especially with the crystal hand on the one guy and Nero's previous experience. It would be nice to see that mixed in as well.
I mean, we got Gaius back, didn't we?
True, that is very true. When he thought he was going to blow him up.
That's true.
I am kind of curious to see how that goes too.
Oh, with Gaius?
Mm-hmm.
Well, and that's kind of one thing that we haven't really talked about yet. So we've talked about all this stuff. We're going over to the first, to Nordvent. There's going to have to be something that's happening at home. You know, time isn't going to stop, theoretically. I mean, it could, I guess, but most likely time isn't going to stop. The battle for Gimlet Dark is still going to happen. The scene that, as far as how Shadowbringers open with Xenos kind of falling to one knee, that's all still going to happen. And there's going to be an aftermath.
Yeah, there is going to be a huge... Oh, man, how are they going to play that off?
And that's kind of like, actually, that's something that we're going to find out, and, you know, the patch that's going to come out, you know, this Tuesday. We're going to understand more as far as what is that all about? Because we still have no idea.
Mm-hmm.
We still don't know what's going on, what the implications are for the Source. For all we know, that battle could almost pretty much be bringing the Source to the brink.
Yeah, there was a calamity mentioned. Oh, twin
calamities. Twin calamities, yeah, so two. So there could be one happening on the verge, on the Source, and then another one happening on the first.
Jeez. I guess we have a lot in store for us this upcoming weeks. A lot to figure out, a lot to find out. And, you know, I guess we'll just have to come back in 2 weeks and let you guys know what's going to go down while we figure it out.
Yeah, a lot of content over the next few months. Things are going to be packed. Schedules are going to be packed.
Yeah. So keep tuning in. We're going to be covering most of the stuff that happens at some of the events. We're not going to actually probably be like, oh, hey, this is the same stuff that's been mentioned before. We'll probably actually try to just include some of the new stuff and then kind of go over some previous stuff. Like, for instance, we've got the Hatching Tide. I totally botched that one.
Yeah, Hatching Tide.
Hatching Tide. Okay, I did get it right. We got the giant egg with the chocobo inside of it coming up here very soon. We have the crossover event, and then other than that, I think that's pretty much all the content we have other than Hildebrand's story, Beast Tribes.
Yep.
So...
And that actually should be coming on Tuesday, the Hildebrand conclusion.
Yep. This Tuesday... May, wow, I was about to call it May. Yes, May 25th. March 26th is when all this will start going down, so please look forward to it.
I can't believe you've just done this.
Yep, I just did it. I did it last time, too.
Alrighty, well, until next time, this is Into the Aether with Dylan Thorne,
Tilp Usugai, or Tilp Zokos, depending on your server.
Enky playing as A.S. Kilrian.
And we hope to hear from you next time. Until then, goodbye.
Have a good one, guys.
We wish you all a wonderful eve.